And now we're very happy to bring a complementary talk, we believe, because it's a very practical now lecture. Excited to present that about how to make it a habit. I think something, to be very honest, we're all kind of struggling with in our daily life, to incorporate that into our daily life. So yeah, now we'll introduce, of course, Ankit Garg, our savior for this topic, make it a habit, really our savior. And yes, so actually I should call him Dhyanse, that's his professional name. And it also means to be in the state of meditation, yes, if I understood correctly, which is cool. And Ankit worked in several strategy and innovation positions across Europe in large organizations, large corporations. He's the founder of Omedito, which is a company that really provides mindfulness and meditation counseling and solutions. And he's also the author of the book 10 Rules of Meditation. And he's also the now owner or creator of the app called Meditation Easy. So we're not here to promote Ankit's stuff.
Well, I'm here for that.
Or to do some commercial, that's actually not allowed. And, but he's here because we share the same vision, actually, which is to really bring mindfulness, awareness into the individuals, into the workplace. And yeah, we're very excited and look forward to hear your tips about how to make it a habit. Thank you, Ankit, for being here.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank the entire team for pushing the topic of meditation and mindfulness and also inviting me to contribute 2 cents to it. And to you guys who missed out the nice sunny weather outside and are here, thanks a lot for coming. I'm assuming that some of you are already familiar with what is mindfulness, what is meditation. Some of you are beginners, some of you are already advanced practitioners, but this question of making meditation and mindfulness a habit is something which we all face, and it's a challenge. Today, I would like to spend 10 points, share 10 points with you, which will help you to resolve some of the issues that you are facing while making this a habit, and hopefully, by the end of the session, we'll have some more maybe questions related to it, or at least practical tips which will help you to make this a habit and integrate this into your life. When we bring change consciously in our life, we always want to know why we are bringing that change, and same applies for mindfulness and meditation. And we have been already exposed to so many scientific studies, publications which are talking about the mental health benefits of mindfulness and meditation practice. I would like to not go into the scientific part of it, but rather give you 2 new or additional perspectives. One is a little bit philosophical, and the other one is more practical. So those who are waiting for the practical part, they'll have to wait for a couple of minutes. The first thing to notice is that only human beings can meditate. Why is that? Are we special? Yes, human consciousness has the ability to reflect on itself, and this little ability, this little aspect of human consciousness creates a huge spectrum of growth for human consciousness. What this means is humans are conscious, but they're also conscious of the fact that they're conscious. If you look at animals, they're also conscious, but they're not conscious of the fact that they are conscious. And because of this, their growth is limited. They are eating, sleeping, surviving, but for human beings, it starts there. The consciousness starts there, and it can grow from there to knowing the microcosm, who am I, what is this body, mind, and soul, to the macrocosm, what is this universe, what are these planets, and what is this entire cosmos. So there is a possibility to know from the microcosm to the macrocosm, and this is available to human beings simply because of this ability for the human consciousness to reflect on itself. Yogis, truth seekers, spiritual seekers, they have spent their entire lifetime in the process of meditation, using this ability, trying to get enlightened or have some sort of self-realization. I'm sure in the audience, everybody also wants to get enlightened. If not, for those few who do not want to get enlightened, let's look into the practical parts of practical reasons why you should integrate meditation and mindfulness into your life. For that, let's look into our 24 hours. where we are spending most of our times in 3 different states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. Most of our time during the day, we are spending, in our daily activities, time in the waking state, and at night, a couple of hours in dreaming and in deep sleep state. Let's analyze these 3 different states in a little bit more detail to see why we need to have meditation and mindfulness in our lives. If you take these states and plot them on 2 different parameters, one is awareness, and the other one is mental activity, which comprises of our thinking process, emotions, feelings, and all other things, you will see that ideally, in the waking state, we should be having high mental activity, and we should have high awareness to perform these mental activities and to know that we are doing these mental activities. And then at night, when we are dreaming, this mental activity is still high. We are still continuing to process our thoughts. We are still, some of the other activities still going on, but the awareness of this is not there. At times, we realize, yes, we are dreaming, but this is not happening all the time. So the awareness is relatively low as compared to waking state. And then when we move into intervals of deep sleep, we see that there is almost no mental activity, and there is no awareness of this fact that there is you are in deep sleep. Out of this state, we derive all our rejuvenation, energy, and getting prepared for the next day. Now, if all these 3 states, they were functioning absolutely fine, they were in harmony, and you were spending the right amount of time in waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state, there was no need to add a 4th state to our consciousness. But as we all know, in our waking state, even during very simple acts like eating or walking and other things like that, we are not as aware as we should be. We are not mindful of simple processes like eating. And also at night, how many of us are suffering from some sort of sleep disorder? We are not getting the deep sleep that we need, that we require, and that is becoming the basis of lots of problems in our life. So we need to introduce a 4th state in our consciousness, and this state is nothing supernatural. It's very normal to a human consciousness, and that state is called meditation, where the awareness is very high and the mental activity is relatively low. When you start spending time in this state of high awareness and low mental activity called as meditation, 2 things happen. One, the experience of it is already very blissful. It's very pleasant, so it's an end in itself. A lot of people are spending time into meditation. Once they get the knack of it, once they have learned the art of it, they're spending time into it. It's a luxury in itself, but for busy people like us, we want to know why we should integrate this into our lives. For the second point, this spending time in this state has implications on all other states of our consciousness. The more time we spend in meditation, we learn to have higher awareness, which allows us to be more mindful in the waking state. And also, we learn to calm our body and mind down and have low mental activity, which helps us in our deep sleep state at the night. So there are these reasons and other reasons which you know from science, and also meditation and mindfulness is also trendy. So you could be having any reason from your side, and in having this as a practice. The second thing that is missing in making it a habit is the outcome. So we know the reason why we want to meditate, why we want to be mindful, but still we want to get motivated by the outcome. What is the outcome of mindfulness and meditation when I'm spending time into it? We want to already have a certain perception about it because we are driven by that. Let's look at some of these images. And when you look at these images, they're clearly inspiring, motivating to do some sort of fitness activity and do your workout or yoga or anything else that you consider important for your fitness, and you push yourself to go through your routines of your workout when you see a certain perceived outcome of your effort. And these kind of images or your own idea about how you will be once you are spending time in your fitness and other kind of activities you relate to it, you want to be like these people. But with meditation, would you be wanting to like him? No, because unfortunately, we still have this perception at the back of our mind that when we are spending more time in meditation and mindfulness, we would eventually be associated with some sort of religion or a cult or any kind of belief system. So this blocks our habit formation, and we need to change this perception of the outcome of what meditation and mindfulness will bring to us in our mind. One of the difficulty in this process is that the experience of meditation and mindfulness is so subjective that it's hard to put a framework on it. It's hard to show your outcome to the other person. So that's one difficulty, and the more you spend time in mindfulness and meditation, you see that if you have created a certain picture, a certain outcome for yourself to motivate yourself for mindfulness and meditation, you start moving away from any sort of perception, any sort of picture to who you really are. And this difference is something which again creates confusion. Why am I meditating? So my recommendation to you is to at least do not have the negativity about meditation and mindfulness, that it would lead to something like this, and sit in meditation with an open mind, with openness. Now let's look into the practice of meditation and mindfulness in itself. One of the important components of the practice is the technique in itself. Are you using the right technique? How many of you know in the audience know this technique of focusing on the breath as meditation or mindfulness technique? Please raise your hands. Wow, everybody, almost. How many of you know anything else and practice any other technique apart from focusing on the breath as your meditation and mindfulness technique? Quite a few people. This reminds me of a story from India, from a village where there was a hat seller. You know, those guys who are walking from one part of the village on hot summer days in India to the other and selling hats, caps. They have typically a basket of hats with them. So one of these guys, one afternoon, he was sitting down under the tree, resting. He had his food. He took a short nap. When he woke up, he found out that all his caps were gone. And he was in panic. He looked up, down, right, left, everywhere, and he saw that there were monkeys on the tree, and they had taken all his caps. They were wearing the cap. So he tried everything to get the caps back. He started shouting at the monkeys, and the monkeys started shouting back at him. He started making all other gestures, and the monkeys made all those gestures back at him. He got completely frustrated. And then, in frustration, he took his last cap, which he was wearing, and threw it on the floor. All other monkeys, since they were imitating, they did the same. They threw the cap that they were wearing on the floor. So he collected all these caps. He went on his way, and went to the next village. 50 years later, same thing happened to his grandson. His grandson was in a very similar situation. He was also a cap seller. He was also, one fine afternoon, he was sitting under the tree, taking his break. And when he woke up out of his nap, he saw the caps were gone. And he again saw the caps were taken by monkeys. Probably these were the grandsons of the monkeys earlier. And he again tried everything to retrieve his caps back. He started shouting at the monkeys, and monkeys imitated back. But now, after 10 minutes of panicking, the idea came to him, the story of his grandfather. He told him that, look, something like this had happened to me. So he realized he knew the trick how to get the caps back. So he took his last cap, he threw it on the ground, but this time, none of the monkeys threw the cap on the floor. Rather, there was one monkey who was hiding in the bushes. He came out, quickly took that cap, slapped the cap seller, and went on the tree. So the moral of the story is that what technique works for one person might not work for you. You have to find the right technique that fits for you. There is no right and wrong, but basically a technique that works for you. in Tantra, in India, there are 112 techniques that were developed thousands of years ago. When I use the word Tantra in the Western part of this world, it's typically associated with sex, but it's actually a science to take human consciousness from the normal level to higher states. And in this process, 112 techniques were developed which were keeping in mind all kinds of people. So basically, their claim was that one out of these 112 techniques, at least one would fit any kind of person, be it a person who is more focused, who can concentrate better. There are people who can imagine more than concentrating. There are people who can feel more than other people. So based on these, there were 112 techniques developed. For example, for people who are more talkative like me, there was a technique where you take all your awareness and focus it at the center of your tongue, because the tongue is associated with the thinking process. So if you do that and relax your tongue, what happens is your thinking process immediately slows down. If you want to give it a try for 5 seconds, just try it out right now. Take all your attention and awareness at the center of your tongue and keep it relaxed. At the top part of your tongue, try to keep the attention at the center of the tongue. And you will find out that the thinking process immediately slows down. So I think I should go now because all of you are in meditation. So this is one more example. It might work for some people, it might not work for others. The message is that you need to find the technique that works for you. When this science of meditation, called as dhyana, in Sanskrit, meditation is called as dhyana, when it was taken from India to China, the word dhyana became chan. When the word and the practice was taken from China to Japan, the word became from chan to zen. What you know today as zen is a derivative of the practice of meditation which originated in India. Of course, Zen practitioners, they took it to the next level. They developed it further, and they modified a lot of techniques for their use. One of those techniques was, for example, they devised a puzzle for those kind of people who are very intellectual, who want to think everything through. For those kind of people, what they did was they designed very simple sentences, a sentence like, what is the sound of one hand clapping? It was called as a koan, and this sentence, a question, was given by the teacher to the student to contemplate over, to meditate over for days, months, and years. And in the process of doing so, in the process of the student just thinking and trying to solve what is the sound of one hand clapping, his mind or her mind was getting concentrated, and the thinking process was trying to somehow come to the conclusion, but there was no conclusion. There is no answer to a question like this. And in this process, there comes a point where the person takes the jump from mind to no mind, basically from a state where he's thinking to going somewhere which is beyond thinking, and his awareness is very high. So he's immediately put into a state of meditation. Be it this technique, or be it other techniques of Tantra, or anything else that is known as meditation technique, there is a common pathway which is taken while you're going through these techniques. And that pathway is from relaxation to mindfulness to meditation. Each meditation technique is designed to take you from mind to no mind. And these are, mind and no mind are very loose words. The idea here is to say that it takes you from high level of mental activity to a state where there is almost no level of mental activity. And this can be done by, first of all, you need to relax your body and mind. Unless you do that, there is no going further. There is no going into mindfulness. There is no going into meditation. The funny part is that we often want to do mindfulness and meditation to be relaxed. But actually, it's a prerequisite. You need to be relaxed first for mindfulness and meditation. So when you go through this process, you'll see that, first of all, you feel physical pleasantness while you're relaxing your body and mind. Once you are in the sort of zone of mindfulness, you feel more centered, you feel more in the now, more in the moment, and if you stretch your practice further, you will reach a zone of meditation where there is a certain sense of blissfulness, a certain silence arising out of nowhere. And this is something which is very, very special, and once you've tasted that, you want to have it more, and you have found your way to reach there. I've spent enough years to play with all these techniques and lots of techniques from India and otherwise. And over the last 10 years of being in Europe, I have designed 30 mindfulness meditation techniques which are understandable by the Western mind and are also integrable in our daily lives. These techniques are available in the Meditation Easy app. Sorry about the promotion a little bit, but we will try out some of these techniques in the Train the Trainer session, and for others, they are available in the Meditation Easy app. But the point here is that you use these techniques or any other technique that you know. You should find a technique that fits for you. And ideally, the technique should be such that after a certain period of time, you are able to even leave the technique. A lot of people, they continue using the same technique for years to come, and ideally what should happen is after 6 months, 1 year, 2 years of practice, depends on you, you should be able to leave the technique and just move into silence, into relaxation, into mindfulness, all by yourself, without using the technique. The next point is there an optimal time for meditation? A lot of people ask whether I should meditate in the morning or in the afternoon and the evening. Well, as long as you can meditate at a particular time regularly, that's good enough. But there is an optimal time for mindfulness and meditation. And those times are dawn and dusk. They're not because in the morning you're fresher, or in the evening you are tired. That's why dawn and dusk. There is a more intricate yogic logic behind. I would not go into the details of this yogic logic. Rather, I will just give you a brief introduction about how yoga sees the human body and mind. In yoga, there are 72,000 energy channels in our body. These are not, there is no physical evidence of these energy channels. And there are 3 major energy channels called Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. The Ida and the Pingala, the left channel and the right channel, it is going in the helix format from the bottom of our spine to the top. And Sushumna is the channel that is in the middle of the spine. Ida, the channel which is on the left, is more responsible for your physical left side of the body and mental processes like creativity and feeling and emotions and so on. And Pingala, which is physically governing your right part of the body and mental processes like analytical capabilities, logic, reasoning, and so on. These are typically active all the time, but alternating during the day and night. But this Sushumna, this middle channel, it's almost inactive during 24 hours, only except there are 2 times during the day when this channel is active. And those times are when there is a transition from day to night and from night to day. These are the times where this channel becomes active, energy starts flowing through this channel from the bottom to the top, and you experience this sense of centeredness, this sense of silence, this sense of ecstasy, which is called as meditation and is experienced in meditation. So these are the 2 best times if you have to build a sophisticated practice for yourself. But for beginners, I would recommend just pick a particular time and stick to it as long as you can do that regularly. It does not matter if it's in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. The next point is regarding a space for meditation and mindfulness practice. This is often neglected point, but it's also very important to build a habit out of mindfulness and meditation. I know there are, the apartments in Basel are pretty small, but still I would recommend you to have some dedicated space for having your practice of meditation and mindfulness. For those who can afford a room, nothing like it, but otherwise you can just have one corner in your house where you keep it undisturbed, you just do your practice over there, and you regularly visit, or you're regularly at that spot for your meditation and mindfulness. We did a survey in 2016 of our Meditation Easy app users on different questions related to meditation and mindfulness practice. And one of the insights that we generated out of that was that 78% of the people who have a regular practice of meditation and mindfulness, they are having some sort of dedicated place for their practice. Now, this insight is it's just simply indicative that if you would be spending, or if you would be having a dedicated corner in your house, then it is more likely that you would sit for your practice, and to form a habit, it becomes even more important. The idea here is to keep things very simple, to have a place which is quiet, which is clean. Avoid sitting next to the refrigerator or your dishwasher. So choose a place which is quiet, which is clean, which is where you would be invited to sit down on a daily basis. You can create an ambience that you like. Some people, they have paintings, and some people use incense sticks, some people don't. So there's not much significance to using incense sticks or paintings or things like that for your practice. Just that for your ambience, the ambience that you like and that invites you to sit down is something that you can create for yourself. Now, this point is a bit controversial. There is a lot of talk around, or propaganda around, mindfulness and meditation techniques that are 1 minute or 2 minute or 5 minute, and in 5 minutes you are immediately in the zone of mindfulness and meditation. So there is a lot of propaganda around that. In my personal opinion, there are no quick fixes for that. There are no quick techniques. There are no quick shortcuts that would immediately take you to the zone of mindfulness and meditation in a few minutes. Me personally and some of my fellow meditators, we try to illustrate this by this chart here, by this example. We try to see what is our mental activity over a period of 30 minutes of our silent meditation session. What are we experiencing? And what we found out is that it takes 10 to 15 minutes for the mental activity to come down from the normal mode to somewhat lower, and the awareness to increase slowly. It takes 10 to 15 minutes to come into the zone of mindfulness where you're feeling very centered, where you're feeling in the moment. And if you go further, deeper into it, if you spend more time, you will see that after 20-25 minutes, then comes the zone where there is higher awareness and low, almost negligible mental activity. And mind you, these are from people who are meditating at least 6 months regularly. So those who are starting, I don't think 5 minutes are enough to bring mindfulness and meditation to your life. I know we are all very busy and we don't have time, but there are no quick fixes. So we have to invest some time into the practice of meditation and mindfulness. You can start with 5 minutes to build a practice, to build a habit, but you will not experience what really mindfulness is, what really meditation is, unless you sit for a substantial amount of time. And I mean, you can start with 15 to 20 minutes and then see and gradually increase time as you proceed with your journey, and you start to see that there are outcomes, there are benefits. When you really feel that in your being, then you can increase the time. Otherwise, at least 5 minutes would not be enough to reach to any sort of these experiences and conclusions. And as I said earlier, use a technique. Again, use a technique that will allow you to shorten this period of reaching to a stage where you can, in 10 to 15 minutes, come into mindfulness in 20 to 25 minutes, come into the zone of meditation. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually much easier to meditate every day. If you compare meditating every day to meditating twice or thrice a week, you will see that those things which we are doing on a daily basis, for example, brushing the teeth, no matter how busy our schedule is, no matter how many things we have to do during the day, we don't miss out on that. So anything that goes into our daily routine is becoming so natural to us that there's no force required for you to sit down and consciously push yourself into the practice. So if you're putting a 2-3 times a week kind of a schedule for yourself, you will every time have to think about it and say, okay, I have to do this now. And if you do it on a daily basis, if you give it those 15-20 minutes of space in your life every day, it will become natural in no time. Now when you have spent enough time in building it a habit, you have chosen the right technique, you have a nice place in your house for mindfulness and meditation, you're spending 15-20 minutes, it's very easy to start building up expectations. I get emails sometimes from people saying, for example, I have been meditating for 6 months, when can I levitate? So these are the one kind of expectation that people have to have these superpowers. But a more natural expectation is that once you have spent time into mindfulness and meditation, and in your one session you experienced some silence, some centeredness, some peace, now you want to have it again. When you go into your next session, you want that particular experience again. And if you go with that assumption in mind, you are going to be disappointed. So when we sit into the meditation session, no matter how good or bad the previous session was, we always sit with openness, with absolutely having no expectations. It's simply because every day is different. Sometimes there are sessions which are very good, where you genuinely feel very centered and you feel so silent, you're so blissful that there is no proof required for you to go further in meditation and mindfulness. But sometimes it just feels like a waste of time. You're sitting and you want that inner peace to come and it doesn't come. So it's okay to have sessions where there is a different kind of experiences. What is important is that you remain consistent, that you keep on doing it on a daily basis, even if it's for a few minutes. There are so many factors into play which actually governs your session, how the weather is outside. If the weather is good, you're all happy. If the weather is bad, you're unhappy. And the kind of food that you had eaten before, the kind of day you had before. So a lot of factors go into play to give you, every time you sit into a session, at least in the beginning of forming it a habit, to have every time a different experience. So do not expect the same thing every time, except the outcome that is coming out of your session, and let go of your presumptions. These are very basic things, but if you consciously remind yourself just before sitting for your practice, they will help you out. So far we have looked at those factors which were more related to the practice of meditation and mindfulness. Now let's look at something that is an external factor that affects our life and also the practice of meditation and mindfulness. And one of them is technology. Sometimes we are using technology, sometimes technology is using us, and we do not know when is technology using us and when is we are using technology. Because we are so much engaged in technology today that this line is almost blurred, and we are constantly kind of wrestling with using the technology or getting used by it. One of the examples is clearly our mobile phones. This was taken from the internet, and I found it very correct that we all are looking at our phones for genuine reasons as well, checking your emails, and also consuming all sorts of impressions and information from social media, from different platforms. And we are at a stage where it's almost like you're eating a lot of food, but not knowing how much amount of food that you should eat, and also what kind of food you should eat. And what results is that you are obese, you have disorders. Same is happening with information. We're consuming so many different types of impressions that, and the amount of it is so huge that we're becoming information obese. So we need to manage the amount and type of information that we're consuming every day. If we don't do that, no meditation and mindfulness practice can help you. So we have to manage that first, and you'll see that also it will have an implication on your meditation and mindfulness practice. When you'll sit down, if you have not been constantly spending 3-4 hours checking your Facebook and all that, it will be much easier for you to calm down and to go from relaxation to mindfulness to meditation. And obviously there are better ways of using the phone. There are hundreds of mindfulness and meditation apps which you can use to learn mindfulness and meditation. There are a couple of points which I would personally find useful while choosing these apps. One thing is to remember that what you are served as guided meditation, are these based on a technique, or are these just some nice sounding words put together and are, what I call as pleasant gibberish? So there is a lot of content out there on the internet. You need to see if it's based on a technique. And also, secondly, are these apps making you dependent on them? You have to understand the business model of a mobile app is to have you as a recurring customer so that you use it for months, years to come. And that might be fine for productivity apps, but for meditation, it's somewhat counter. In the ideal scenario, you use the app to learn meditation and mindfulness, and after a few months or a year or two, you leave the app aside and you're able to do it on your own. That should be the idea behind using these tools, and not consume this as a consumable. These are not songs that we download and hear, and just by hearing we feel pleasant and that's it. Now when you have spent time in building the practice, and when you're doing all this effort, naturally you will start having questions. The more you are spending time in mindfulness and meditation, after a few weeks, months of practice, you will have questions. And it's okay to look for guidance outside. I know because of certain kind of people, certain kind of association with religion, with belief system, with spiritual systems, there is a certain negativity and hindrance to ask for guidance, because we simply don't want to be a part of a religious or a belief system when we have questions related to mindfulness and meditation. But today, the topic is coming out of the clutches of religion and belief systems, and there are enough good people who are able to help you, who are not associated with any sort of spiritual or religious practice. So it's okay to look for guidance and ask questions to these kind of people. Or if you want, you can also inform yourself by reading books, watching videos, taking courses. As Eric mentioned, every week there is meditation session happening here at the campus. You can take part in that. In groups, you can ask questions. I'm sure when you do that, a lot of things will be clear to you, and you'll be able to proceed further in your practice by resolving those questions. And keep in mind that meditation is beyond any religion and belief system. So anything that pulls you towards a particular religion is not necessary to have the practice of mindfulness and meditation in your life. So there is no reason to be afraid of opening up and bringing your personal questions to these people who can maybe help you out in different ways. Just like at the campus, there is also already a team for that. Lastly, I would like to end my 10 points by saying that the art of meditation is a knack and not a science. It's an ability, it's a skill which is learned by doing, and the experience of it is so subjective, it's so individualistic, it's so unique that it's hard to make a science out of it. And it's best to learn it by doing it yourself and not looking for frameworks and set patterns. So I will tell you one more story. I think we have 5 minutes for that, which illustrates this point very well. Again, in an Indian village, there was one thief, a very famous thief. He was getting old, and his son was getting younger, so it was the right time to transfer the art of theft from the father to the son. They waited for the no moon night to come where it was complete darkness and it was easy for the son to learn. They chose a particular target house to break in. They waited at a distance when the night came, and they waited at a distance of the house until everybody in the house, they went to sleep. Once that happened, they broke into the house. They quickly went into a room and identified a box, a huge chest, where probably there was a lot of valuables from the family. So the father opened the box. He asked the son to go inside and inspect for all these valuables and take it out. But as soon as the son went into the box, the father slammed the door close. He closed the door and he ran out of the window. With that noise, the family members, they woke up, and also the son realized how much trouble he was in. He panicked. His mind totally stopped. He didn't know what to do. But an idea came to him in this process. He started making noises like a cat. And listening to these voices, the family members, they thought, okay, maybe there is a cat trapped in the room. So everybody else relaxed. They went to sleep, and one person with a lamp went to the room to release the cat. As soon as this person opened the box, this son, he blew the candle, he pushed the person away, ran out of the window, and disappeared into the darkness. After 2 hours, when he reached home, he was in complete rage. He was very angry at his father. He was completely tired as well. And his father was quietly sitting in the house. The light was on. The food was in front of him. Before he could say anything, the father said, "You're home safe. No need to say anything. You have learned the art of theft. There is nothing more I can teach you. Now let's have some food." With that, I wish that you would discover your own path into mindfulness and meditation and will be able to make a habit out of it in your life. Thank you very much for listening. I would give over to